All right, guys, we're back at it still on the morning show right here. Hey, Rotus, take it away, my friend. Rotus, I'm sandwiched this morning in between two great, lovely, great women of high accomplishment. I should say, Rotus. I've got Harvard Fellowship,
lots of
Femi,
girl
and
power. Lots of girl
I've
power.
got Vimbai, Africa,
Vimbai. You have to put the
Vimbai,
Vimbai.
Africa media star of. Can I continue Vimbai? The Big Brother fame, and many media houses. I've got Africa fame.
Okay, Rufai.
Rotus, I'm blessed. I know you're jealous, Rotus. Just continue. You're jealous.
He's bashful. That's why he's looking down. He's bashful.
Yeah. You wish you're in the middle of two great
Incredibly jealous.
Go ahead, my friend.
Yo, good morning, Vimbai. Good morning, Ayo. Excuse me. Good morning, Adefemi, and good morning, Rufai. Good morning to all our viewers. So we begin with NVIDIA. NVIDIA is facing antitrust claims, according to Reuters from France. This is going to be the first time. I see France doesn't have enough going on with its election. Reuters is saying that they are bringing these claims because of the kind of market share they have in the chip space. Quickly move over to Hong Kong. Hong Kong's equity market, we're at half year of 2024. So we're looking at how the Hong Kong exchange has performed, and it has struggled. So far, it's only raised, as far as IPOs are concerned, ranking 13th, the 6.3 or so billion that it has raised so far, as it's about, I think, a 2-decade low. We haven't seen those numbers since 2003. Hong Kong, of course, because of proximity to China, facing a number of issues as far as geopolitical concerns. Quickly move to Europe. We are, I think there's in Portugal right now, there's a forum going on that's being headed by Christine Lagarde. So there's a number of central bank governors that are in Portugal right now that are going to be discussing a number of macroeconomic issues. What we will be expecting, Eurozone inflation later on today. So if you take a look at some of the nations that have already been, as far as the numbers that are already out, in terms of France, Spain, France, Italy, Germany, and then the wider EU area. Later on this afternoon, I think we're expecting about 2.5% according to Bloomberg estimates for the Eurozone. From there, I think we go to Nigeria in terms of the NGX. Again, it's half year. So far this year, the market has returned about 33.8%, and it's done pretty well. Now, that's capital appreciation. There's also the matter of dividend yields. If you look at some of the best performing, at least the top 5, according to numbers put together from Naira metrics, dividend yields, some of the companies that are there, looking at SFS REIT, Zenith Bank, UBA, Presco, and in fact, Smart Products PLC leads the way. It's a pretty small company, but 40%. For our viewers out there, you want to combine dividend yields, which of course is based on what dividend is being paid out divided by the share price of a stock. And in addition to that, you put that together with capital appreciation, you can actually beat inflation. So far this year, those companies, for 2023, those companies have done pretty well. And it's an indication of where to look for in terms of investing. Then you've got on the fixed income side, the federal government's savings bond for July. The window was opened up yesterday. It's open for just a week. The rates have come down a tad. So you see the 2-year at 16.6, the 3-year at about 17% or so. We've been charting the rates since the year began. So you can see the trajectory from the beginning of the year as far as the savings bond chart is concerned. Peaking in June at about 18.41% for the 3-year, and then coming down a tad to 17%. Perhaps the government is worried about, it could be because of interest costs, in terms of interest rate costs, in terms of what is being paid out. So that's what we're seeing in terms of the 2-year and the 3-year. But remember, it's a minimum of 5,000 Naira that's being offered. Christmas is coming up at the end of the year. You want to put your money somewhere and have it work for you. And then the capital importation numbers came out for Nigeria. That is the amount of capital that came into our coffers in the first quarter of this year. And a pretty big jump. If you look at, according to the Bureau of Statistics, 3.37 billion Naira, dollars, is what came in the first 3 months of this year. On a quarterly basis compared to the fourth quarter of last year, 210%. On a year-on-year basis, 198%. FPIs, foreign portfolio investment, made up the bulk of that, 61.4%, $2 billion that came in there. But you can see FDI is still pretty little, $119 million, making up just 3.5% of the total. The UK, again, for investments, where is most of this money flowing into Nigeria? The bulk of the amount of funds that came in, I think South Africa was second, the Cayman Islands or so was third. UK bringing in 1.8 billion. Lagos, $2 billion of the, or actually 2.78 of the 3.3 that came in, making up about 82%. Only 3 states brought in capital: Lagos, the FCT, and Ekiti states. So the remaining states in the nation didn't bring in anything. The banking sector accounting for about 2 billion of those figures. So, in terms of where money is flowing into, it's a good idea to take a look at these figures just to see where we are. And then just to round off, I was, a very interesting cover story, investigating story from our folks at This Day newspaper, Nigeria's newspaper of record. I will just say though, when we're comparing debts, comparing to the US and Europe, Nigeria, in terms of debt to GDP, the US, as far as the first quarter of this year, debt to GDP in the US is 123%. In the euro area, for where the currency is used, that's about 88%. For the EU, the wider EU, it's about 81%. So we do have to put that in perspective when we're, comparing debt figures. That's all we got for today.
Okay, Rotus, real quickly, couple of things. I saw the capital importation numbers. Despite the fact there's an appreciation, but I have a concern. Most of that money, over 2 billion of that money is just portfolio. And a paltry sum is FDI. How can we flip the balance? I think that should be the challenge. And also, you were talking about NVIDIA going through anti-competition wahala. I know definitely it's going to happen because at the pace at which NVIDIA is growing. And I was just taking our time to read up about Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA. He started this company about 30 years ago. 1993 to be precise. It was about 30 years of age when he started. This was a company that about 2019 was worth less than 100 billion. All of a sudden is one of the most capitalized, or if not the most capitalized company in the world. So definitely because of proprietary issues and most of the great work he does, definitely you have antitrust here and there. Definitely also you also have concerns about the proliferation of AI. But it doesn't stop the very great work that this man is doing. Another thing I'd like to talk about, also based on the numbers, are the debt to GDP ratios, numbers that came out, that we've talked about 52% that you talked about yesterday. It's also very staggering because when you look at it, this was the same country in 2007, that debt to GDP ratio after the Paris Club forgiveness was about 7, 8, 9%. All of a sudden, we've grown this debt again so highly. So we're having a niggling problem. And my challenge is we are not seeing anything to show for the debt we're incurring. Most of it is going through personnel costs when you check through the budgetary allocations. We're not seeing real capital investment and development. And that's it. Some stats have said that if we want to increase our, our infrastructure stock, it's going to cost us close to about 100 billion yearly for the next couple of years. I know we don't have the wherewithal as regards that resource when you look at the fact that the country has a budget of just about 30 billion a year, compared to South Africa that has over 130 billion. But the question is, can we have innovative ways of financing to at least be able to bridge that, capital deficit as regards infrastructure? I think those are the conversations, are the formative issues. And the fact that the states are not just viable, that's another challenge.
I'm going to take a look at NVIDIA because, like Rufai said, this was inevitable. We're definitely going to see an environment or a perception of antitrust because when you're looking at the world of generative AI, things are moving so quickly, and there are very few players who are leading the pack and who were first market movers and were able to take advantage of being first market movers and dominate the markets. So, looking at the situation in France at the moment, I mean, it is understandable. Listen, the entire world is still trying to figure out where we stand with regards to AI, the framework of AI, policies concerning AI. It reminds me of a time when, there were similar concerns about social media. And I just remember the time when you saw, was it Mark Zuckerberg coming to speak to the Senate, and everybody just seemed a little bit baffled and confused about this thing and how this thing worked. And I feel that's how it works with AI, is that the people who are supposed to be coming up with the regulatory framework probably need to do a little bit more work reaching out to the younger generation, to the generation of those who are immersed in this world, because there's a lapse, there's a disconnect there between how quickly and how nimble these companies are, and how, you look at how ChatGPT just blew up, and we know that NVIDIA's chips are a massive contributor to how quickly ChatGPT has blown up. So, this was inevitable. But on the other hand, you're saying, okay, fine. So if they have a monopoly, who else is stepping into the ring? Is it their fault that they possibly have a monopoly on a lot of the chips and so forth? Not really. So I think there's a lot of moving parts to that NVIDIA story. I'm sure the case will go away with time. But for me, I think it's a bigger conversation about, is policy able to keep up with the pace at which AI is developing globally?
Indeed and absolutely. I think those are definitely the questions that people want answered. I think that in situations like this, we are tackling a beast, but also something that has the potential to help humankind in a way. So I can imagine that there are definitely two sides to this argument, Rotus. And then in addition to that, there are lots of different agencies and bodies that exist to make sure that these types of issues these types of services, and these types of products are released in a safe way. So in addition to antitrust, we also, across the European Union, across the European bloc, there is also competition watchdogs, institutions that are created in order to seek out these products, these services, and make sure that when they are released for consumption through different mediums, that they are a safe product to use, and ones that don't contribute to graft or to a lack of competition in the market. So, I mean, I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on this story. I know you also mentioned that Christine Lagarde is speaking in Portugal. Is that what you said?
That's correct, yes.
And so when we're looking at that meeting of different leaders of central banks, of different financial leaders, it is going to be interesting again to see what the purpose of that meeting is and what lines we can expect. I don't know if Nigeria will be represented at that meeting, whether or not this is one for Europe as a whole. It may well be that case, but it would be interesting to find out a bit more information about that.
Yeah. So really, basically, it's about whether or not we're going to see more rate cuts. Christine Lagarde has given some feelers because they were a late rate cut at their last meeting. We're likely not going to get back-to-back rate cuts, which is the reason why the European Union inflation figures that we're going to get later today will be a guide as to whether or not another rate cuts will happen. What we're expecting is that rates will be held basically at the next meeting. But this particular group over in Portugal is just going to be talking about basically a lot of macroeconomic headwinds and monetary policy pathways for a number of nations around the world.
Understood. Well, thank you. You can catch far more business updates on the Global Business Report, which will be anchored by Rotus Oddiri at 11 o'clock.